impossible without robotics.
Vijay, thank you so much. It's now 25 to 8. Could an artificial pancreas radically improve the life of people with type 1 diabetes and so reduce the burden on our National Health Service? A pilot trial over the past year has yielded very interesting results for what is sometimes known as closed-loop technology. The NICE, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, or NICE, is currently considering the evidence and will produce guidance for England and Wales. Our guest editor, Lord Botham's last charity walk raised money for type 1 diabetes, which one of his daughters lives with. Yasmin Hopkins has been on a trial of this closed-loop technology.
The struggles that come with that is you never feel in control of your own body. If I'm in a meeting, am I going to have a hypo? Are my sugars going to go low? Do I need to make sure I don't have as much insulin? All of those thoughts don't happen now. You feel so exhausted for so many years, and all of a sudden it's like someone is there to hold your hand.
Well, thank you to Yasmin for that. Professor Partha Carr is the National Specialty Advisor Diabetes with NHS England and joins us now. Professor Carr, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's just start with the basics, please. What is type 1 diabetes exactly?
So in simple plain terms, you got your antibodies or your autoantibodies. So basically, in short, you got antibodies supposed to fight bugs, but due to some reason, it decides to go and fight your own organs. And when it does against the cells that produce insulin in the pancreas, you have type 1 diabetes. They destroy the cells, so you are dependent on insulin for the rest of your life.
So how do these artificial pancreases work?
So it's probably the closest thing you can come to a cure, which is still in debate and in discussion, etc. And what it's doing is it's automating most of the process. Your glucose measuring, your giving of insulin, the calculations you have to do, it's all being automated by, as much as feasible, by the device. So, and as you mentioned, we have been trialing that across the country, and the results have been absolutely fantastic. So quite positive at the present moment of time, I would say.
Just tell us about those results. You say they've been absolutely fantastic. What does the data tell us about how these artificial pancreases are doing the job?
So there are two parts to it. I mean, the first part is what we clinicians always look at. You know, does it improve your diabetes control? Does it reduce admissions and all that, which it definitely does. But probably most importantly, what it does do, and it came across time and time again from parents who've got children with type 1 diabetes or even adults, it was quality of life. And one of the lasting things I can still remember, a parent telling me I slept at night for the first time in years. So that's huge, I would say.
So in practical terms, for those with type 1 diabetes, people who often have these hypos, which I wonder if you could just explain, just in practical terms, if this were to be rolled out, how would this change the lives of people with type 1 and indeed their families, which you mentioned?
So, I mean, I would say this is probably the biggest game changer you can think of. If you take a step back, type 1 diabetes basically has got three parts. You prick your fingers, look at the number, then you decide what to do with the number, and then you either give yourself insulin or some sugar if your blood sugars are too low, which is the hypo. Now, what is happening with this is most of it is going to be automated. Your numbers get picked up by a sensor. You got an insulin pump which does the calculation for you and then gives you the insulin, or most of it. So what it does do, it takes away a lot of the burden that people have. Now, it doesn't take it away completely, but it's a step in the right direction. It's probably the most important game changer you could expect to happen at this stage of health system across the world.
And do we know how much of a cost to the NHS type 1 diabetes is, which this treatment could potentially chip away at?
You would expect if this is rolled out, if this happens, you could, and I don't over-egg the situation, you could look at a lot of complications that we talk about, the eye problems, the kidney problems, foot problems being a thing of the past. And that is huge for people with type 1 diabetes. That in itself will be great for the NHS. But beyond that, I always talk about the quality of life, the little things that matter. As I said, go to work, you don't have to take time off work, you're not trying to sort of constantly try and monitor your glucose. Those in itself, quantifying that into society will be huge.
And there was a big if in your sentence there, which I totally understand. What is the next stage that would sort of lead to this being rolled out more widely?
So I think, as you mentioned, NICE, which is our national and internationally recognised body, is looking at all the evidence. We from NHS England have done the data collection. We are working with them closely. I think there is an if. I wouldn't say there's a big if, because I'm quite confident that we'll move towards the right decision. So exciting times, 2023. We'll find out. It'll be out in the public domain as we hear in the first week of January, probably 10th of January. So let's all hold our breath and see where we are.
Wow, a positive story. Professor Partha from NHS England, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
And that brings us to 20 to 8.